Hello, here we are again on Personal Training Portal. I'm joined by the lovely Lewis Horsley. How are you?
I am great, mate. How are you doing?
I'm good. All the better for seeing you. And we're here to talk about episode 45, aren't we? The rights and wrongs of a PT consultation. But as always, before we dive into that subject, we could talk a bit of rubbish.
Well, just to let the listeners know, we have been on Zoom now for an hour and 15 minutes, or just over an hour. And we're only finally now doing the podcast. We've had some horrible technical difficulties. You know when it's just one of those days where it feels like things just aren't going right? I think it's happened with you, Pete, and it just feels like it's happening with me. But we're here, no negativity in the PTP podcast, because we're finally recording.
I mean, it feels like a lifetime that we've been sat here starting the Zoom, ending the Zoom, just trying to get it to go. But we should have figured it out. We've ironed out those problems, hopefully. I hope so. Still, because we had a bad week the other week. Do you remember your Zoom crashed and
Yeah.
we talked for, was it 12 minutes about Would You Rather?
Yes. Yeah.
Really good one, actually. And it actually recorded that bit, but then we did a really good podcast, or what we felt was a good podcast. And then we just lost all of that. So we both sort of dropped into a pit of despair, didn't we? Because we were like,
we had some unlucky few weeks with the podcast, but doesn't matter. We're dedicated to getting them done.
We're pushing on. Yeah, Lewis, have you got any jokes, anything funny?
I don't. So I had some facts for you the other week, didn't I? But unfortunately, I don't have. Yeah, I don't have them this week. What have you got for me?
I mean, I'm just going to say that's a little let down, because I thought that was going to be a regular slot,
I know.
the Lewis facts. But well, I've got a Would You Rather as always that I might throw in there, and I've got a couple of jokes, I suppose. Yeah, we'd like to talk about actual PT related stuff at some point today. But yeah, so first joke we'll dive into: what is your feet's favorite food? Yeah,
Is feet's a word?
feet.
Isn't it feet?
Did I not say that? No, but it's like feet in terms of they belong to feet. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
What's your arm's favorite food? You would say you'd put apostrophe S, no?
What are your feet's
Favorite food?
My feet's favorite word. Food.
Doritos.
I tell you what, I'm glad.
That.
I'm glad that the PTP listeners don't come to us for jokes.
I know. I think that's an epic joke. I mean, it's a dad joke, isn't it? And I can get away with that because I've got 2 children. So that's my defense. Another one I've got for you is, what is the fastest baked good in you?
Hey, you didn't get me on that one, did you?
Would you rather? Should I jump in with that now?
Go on, then.
Would you rather be dropped in a tank of hungry great white sharks, or in a room full of big spiders, essentially? Any spider you want, but big ones.
Well, if you dropped it, did you say a tank? Say a tank.
Yeah.
If you dropped in a tank, yeah, okay. But if you dropped in a tank of sharks, is it like a great white shark? Do you mean like killer sharks?
Oh, the big, great, hungry white sharks.
Whatever. If you dropped in there, you are going to die. So, whatever the alternative is, as long as it's not certain death like that, then I'm going to choose that.
You would drop in dress. No,
if my wetsuit was shark-like.
Yeah, you've got a fin on and everything.
Well, I'm still choosing. I hate spiders, but I'm choosing the room full of spiders because they won't kill them, unless it's a killer spider.
Well, let's say it was a killer spider. What would you do?
I'd still pick the spiders purely because I think just being in water, because being in water with killer sharks, like you're just knackered. At least when the spider, you're on hard ground and you can breathe.
Yeah, but let's face it, you're dying either way, aren't you? So
if it's well, yeah, exactly. So I'd rather drown. I'd rather die. I'd rather die in where I can actually breathe, as opposed to being in underwater and just drowning, as well as being eaten. It's slightly sinister, this one, isn't it? It suits it suits today's sort of theme.
Yeah, just before we move on there, you've got breathing apparatus on. You're dressed as a shark. Yeah. Would you not rather? I mean, I hate spiders. I won't want to be in a room with them. If I'm gonna
Well, no,
die,
neither do I.
if I'm gonna die, I'd rather die from sharks. I mean, see you drop in there, maybe 5 minutes you get before they realise you're not a shark, and then that's you'd be dead pretty quick, wouldn't you? But they'd ripped you apart.
Tell you what, my mind's in the gutter. Like I'm ready to just clog off and lie in a dark room and just go to sleep after this chat. I have actually. I've actually been watching a few different things. So one thing I'd thoroughly recommend. We've watched about 3 episodes. It's just come out in the last couple of weeks on BBC iPlayer. It's The Responder with Martin Freeman. Do you know who Martin Freeman is?
I mean, I don't know him personally, but
No.
I've seen him.
So do you know what it's about?
Well, I imagine it's about being the first person to respond to an emergency.
Yeah, so it's set in Liverpool. He plays a Scouser, and I remember when I found out that it was set in Liverpool and it was BBC, I was like, why don't you just get Stephen Graham? Do you know Stephen Graham, the guy? Well, he's a Scouser, isn't he? And he's a great actor. And I was like, why didn't they just get him instead of Martin Freeman? He was a good actor in certain roles, but I didn't really think he would fit this role. But I tell you what, like, it is so good. And he plays such a good role, like great acting from all the knowledge I have of acting. I'm just going to judge him and say it's really good. But yeah, no, I'd thoroughly recommend it. It's about him being obviously a first responder in the police, but he doesn't go by the book, let's just put it that way. And it's just a load of raggy scousers getting up to no good. And he's sort of like, he knows a lot of them. Like he's not in with it. He's not a corrupt. Well, he just doesn't go by the book as a blobby. So it's really good. I thoroughly recommend it. What have you been watching?
Well, have you watched Afterlife?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you watched?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I really like it. It's one of those where it's hilarious, but get your mind going a little bit emotionally at the same time, doesn't it?
You can almost feel like you want to cry, and then you just
laugh at the same time,
laughing your head off, aren't you? Some of the stuff. Well, I was talking to someone at work about Afterlife, and they said, "Have you watched Derek?"
I haven't watched Derek. No, I've seen it advertised, but I've never seen it.
That is that's different, Mark. Derek. You've got to try it. So we've been watching Derek. It's set in a care home, and yeah, all the people that are in Afterlife, they're in Derek as well, but obviously different people. But Carl Pilkington of Idiot Abroad, he's in it as well. He's just hilarious. Like the sense of humor he has in Idiot Abroad, and he just says it how it is. Very dry sense of humor. Exactly the same, but he's a caretaker. And I'm not kidding you. You've got to watch it just for his hair. It's the worst. Well, he's bald, but he's got like hair on the side.
Oh, okay.
Fake.
Yeah.
But it's just so horrific, this hair. It's so funny. But yeah, you've got to watch it. Derek, he's got like learning difficulties in it, but he works in the care home and everyone loves him. But like how he plays the part is just mad.
No, I've never watched it.
It's in like on Afterlife. What's the guy that's friendly with the kid that was living at home?
Yeah.
Well, he's in it. He's called Kev, and he's literally the same character.
Is he
in a care home? And he's just friends with Derek, but he stays there and just gets pissed, and he's really inappropriate with all the old people. So it's just mad. It's like.
So there's everyone's recommendations. You've got Derek and you've got The Responder on BBC and Afterlife if you haven't seen that. So anyway, what are we actually talking about today, Pete?
We're here to talk about Netflix recommendations. We're here to talk about the rights and wrongs of a PT consultation. So just want to set the scene. Me and Lewis, we've gone back in time. We're starting out as PTs in the gym group Gosford, and we've got our first consultation. Lewis, what are you thinking about this consultation? Where's your head at?
Get in. I've got someone in for a consultation. This might actually be a client, but I don't really know what I should be saying, how I should price my offering. And I'm nervous about not selling them onto PT. I remember when I think I've said this in another consultation. I remember when podcast. I remember when I actually got one at my first ever like official consultation. Because if you remember, in the first few weeks, we were speaking to a lot of people and we were doing sort of like informal consultations. But I remember doing my first official one, and someone says they're interested in PT, and then you lead them down the line and saying, right, we're booking a completely free consultation. And I remember just thinking those exact things I just said. I remember just thinking, how am I going to lay it out? Am I going to embarrass myself? Am I actually going to make sure they're going to come on as a client? So I remember they turned up and I was sat in the consultation. I don't know if you remember, people, the consultation room, it was a boxy sort of, you could probably only fit a few people in it. It wasn't very big. It was a little bit claustrophobic, let's be honest. And it was one of those where it's quite hard to describe, but the desk was up against the wall. So the person, I got to go on the chair furthest away from the door to get in towards the back wall, if that makes sense. So I got them to sit on that. But I remember I was like, right, you go sit on that one. And they like sort of nudged past me and shoulder barged me. And I went, sorry, and he's sorry. And it was just so awkward. It was like such a horrible way to start a consultation. So I was sitting down and then just saying, right, I've got a questionnaire here. Can you just answer them for me?
Oh, no.
And that was it.
God.
And then they're answering questions. So I made this questionnaire and it's just like, how old, like so generic. How old are you? How tall are you? Do you have any injuries? What are your goals? What are your problems? Which I suppose are good. But I just got them to fill it in. So while they're filling it in, I'm like making awkward small talk. And then once they've filled it in, I like start reading it to them. And I'm sort of just, okay, so I know you said the other day you're looking at losing some fat. So with PT, I do blocks of 5 sessions. So I've looked through this. Yep, that looks spot on. I do blocks of 5 sessions, blocks of 10 sessions. It's going to be £25 or £30 per session. Do you want to start on Monday? And that literally, so once it had come in, it literally took 5 minutes. And I remember just thinking, like, surely they're going to sign up to my PT. After the initial awkwardness of having a mini shoulder barge when we first came in, to them sitting down, me putting them up, like an assessment questionnaire, to then me just saying, let's book in for some PT. Like, it was just a nightmare, and they didn't sign up.
How can this go wrong?
Yeah. So, yeah, the first 3 consultations, I didn't really know what I was doing, how I should be doing it, or sort of why I should be doing it. I just heard that you should do a consultation. What about yours?
Well, you remember it, obviously, you've painted the picture of that room quite nicely there. It was quite a generic little room with a desk like you'd find at school. And yeah, a couple of like opposite chairs. And it was very uninviting, not where you'd probably want to sell PT, was it really? But I suppose it was private from the gym floor. So
Private.
exactly.
It was out the.
But like you say, I think obviously I probably had done my little chart of sessions and prices per block and monthly. I think when I first started out, I got sort of pushed in the monthly model.
Yeah, I remember you doing that. Yeah.
Because the management sort of talked me into it. Not talked me, like obviously I made the decision, but this forced me to do it.
Have to do monthly.
Exactly. But they sort of said in terms of if you have a mortgage or rent, monthly can be better because then obviously what your income is, what your expenditure is. So I think I just jumped on that. I remember I'd, took ages to calculate and I worked out my little tables. So if they do 1 session a week, it's this price. And then if they do 2, it drops by £1 or 2. And then they're thinking, I'm going to pick 2 sessions because £2. So instead of paying 35, I'm paying £33. So I think I did all that. And I think I was just like out and about around Jasmine's, I think it was, like dishing out my leaflets and my business cards as you do. I'm thinking everyone's going to PT with you. And I think I lost my sheet. And I
thought you were going to say I lost a client there.
No, so I lost my sheet with all my prices on because I've been going into like
right, okay,
clinics, doctors. I'm a PT. Could I leave some leaflets? Would anyone interested? And I think I dropped it out my pocket or out my bag, and I was devastated because I hadn't written it hard copy. I think I'm gonna have to get the calculator out again, make my little table again. But yeah, going back to the consultation, I think obviously you go in there and you have a bit of chat. You probably got to park you and get them to fill that in. And then I think I didn't even have any sort of set question. I think in my head, I would probably have jotted down some topics within the consultation to talk about, but I didn't have a proper formatted, a professional looking bit of paper that you would have your open-ended questions on and that you would take your notes on. So then it was get as much information, but the only problem by doing that is quite often, depending on the person you would get in, if they're chatty, obviously they can quite often direct the consultation because they sort of overpower you. They take you to a place. So having a plan would have probably prevented that, because then you would keep them. It's great that you find out a bit of information and what they did at the weekend and stuff, but you need to get it back on, because you sell it. You don't want to hear about what they did on the weekend or how many kids they've got or anything like that. You need to know a little bit of that, but you need to direct them. What have they done in the training before? Why have they come and seen you? And you know, what's their biggest problems? These are the things that you need to direct. So that meant that a consultation could, instead of getting to the point and getting the information you need, it could, go all over the shop. And I was just going to say, it's not very efficient in its way, because you ended up, going down rabbit holes.
Exactly. And I think people will probably listen to this, where we were crap at selling, which we were, and we didn't have any structure towards our consultation, which I think is one of the main things. So what we'll do now is we'll run through a few things you can do when you have a consultation. I know we've spoken about it a little bit in the past on other podcasts, but just to reiterate, I said the first thing you need to do when you've got a consultation is you need to build your consultation structure. And what we mean by this is that knowing exactly how you're going to go about leading the consultation, where you're going to lead them down, and almost tailoring it so you know what they're going to say, in terms of, if you go in and make some awkward small talk, and like Pete just said, if it's someone who's quite chatty and they just go off on loads of tangents, and then you're not really finding out about their problems, their struggles, the goals, or what they've tried in the past, then there's not really any structure at all to it. So the first thing you need to do is know how are you going to go about it. You're going to sit them down. You're going to maybe make that little bit of awkward small talk at first, so it is a little bit more personable. Then you can have to ask those open-ended questions. What are your problems? What are your struggles? What are your goals? Let them talk. Don't talk over them. I think mainly just knowing what the structure is going to be.
Yeah, and you've got to remember, the more information, the better the information you get. Essentially, you want the client or the person that's in front of you in the consultation, you want them to almost sell PT to themselves. And what do I mean by that? You want to get into what their problems are, but deep down, because quite often you can talk to someone and you'll say, like, why are you here? Like, why are you interested in personal training? Well, I want to lose a few pounds. But really, that is not the real reason. They probably want to lose a bit of weight, but why do they want to lose a bit of weight? There'll probably be a lot deeper reason for it. It might be the fact, if they're a mother, maybe give birth, they've had a period of not training, looking after the child, the stress of that, and they maybe don't feel comfortable in, I don't know, going to the swimming pool, going on holiday, getting out of your comfy clothes into something, going out for a drink with a partner. All these things, these real things that they probably won't tell you unless you dig. You have to dig a bit deeper and get past just what they think that you want to say, basically.
And that links into understanding them as well, doesn't it?
Definitely. You've got to first, having that small talk, getting some breaking the ice questions, you're going to get an idea of what they're like. And from what they're like, you can then start to relate to them. I mean, we got told this a lot, didn't we, Lewis, when we started out, that you've got to almost be like a chameleon. So you've just got to adapt to who's in front of you. And the PTs that seemed to prosper were people that could talk to Doris, who was 60 and a pensioner, and they could talk to Katie, who was a student, and anything in between. If you can talk to all those different people and relate to them, you're going to be more successful than if you're a PT that can only talk to meatheads, that can only have a chat about training.
I think that only comes with first asking those open-ended questions and making sure you know the problems and struggles and the goals first. Because if you go into the consultation with no structure and you haven't asked those questions, you're not going to be able to relate to them because you don't know anything to be relatable to. So first off, make sure that you've asked those open-ended questions, and Pete just said, then you can adapt to their personality. Whether it's the older person or the younger person, they're going to be completely different people. Find out about their lifestyle, find out about their problems, their challenges, and ask those open-ended questions.
I think as well, Lewis, what you got to remember is obviously we talk about the conveyor belt. So the idea of someone approaching you out of the blue and saying, I want a consultation, will occasionally happen in the blue moon. But if you've had those conversations, you've moved them along the conveyor belt and got to a point where you asked them for if they want a consultation or they've asked you, you should have got an understanding of where their head's at, what their lifestyle's like, things like that. So then you need to be taking that information into the consultation and tailoring it to a degree. You'll know about the problems, the challenges, those open-ended questions. All of that should be in your head or written down somewhere, and then that can be used in the consultation to sell to them.
Exactly. And once you've found out the problems and challenges and you've let them talk and more about their goals, you've actually told stories about how you've been relatable to them or how your current clients you've been working with are relatable to them in their story. You've built up that initial rapport with them. They should start to know you and like you because you met them before, as Pete just said. There goes the problems. You've told stories about what they've gone through and people you've helped. But now you also need to make sure you aren't being too pushy or desperate with no hard sell. As we always say here, don't sell too soon. So I want to make sure that once you've asked these questions, you're not straight away, like I did, like I said before, once I'd given the questionnaire, just gone straight away with, right, I do blocks of 5 or blocks of 10 sessions. I was being too pushy. And I always give this example, but when you go into a car dealership and you just want to have a look at a few cars and you've got a car salesman coming over, showing you all the different cars, and he's just trying to sell you on to one of them when you just want to have a look, you immediately go on the defensive and you don't want to buy anything. And it's going to be the same with your consultation. Even if you've asked a few open-ended questions and you try and sell your PT before that person feels ready, then they're never going to become your client. You need to make sure that you are at the correct point within the consultation to actually introduce your PT services so that they can almost visualize what they can achieve with you before you actually start being pushy.
Yeah, and I think it's focusing on results, isn't it? Not features. So the problem is you go into the consultation, we did this, you've created your package that you think you're going to sell, you've got a price, and then you've got all the great things you get with it. You're going to get training plans, you're going to get nutrition plans, you're going to get support from me, you're going to get X, Y, and Z. They're all features. But if you're just going to list a load of features, how is that potential client in front of you going to think, well, great, I'll get a nutrition plan, I get a training plan, and they don't really understand how that helps them. So from that information you've gathered, all their problems and challenges, if you can then relate the results, but the features, how will a regular training plan help them? Well, it will give you structure. It will give you consistency. It will make sure you tick off every muscle group that you need to. Any imbalances that person has, maybe they've got terrible posture, maybe their core's shot. You should have gathered that information in previous chats and then in the start of the consultation. You can then say, well, we've got this training plan. I know that you want to do a lot of core work. From having a baby, your core's maybe not in the best position. We're going to make sure we get plenty of core work within that plan, and that's going to be structured over weeks to make sure we build you up so you've got a stronger core. That is taking it from a off the shelf into this fits Sarah, who's just given birth, who wants to lose that extra weight she's getting. You've tailored that in. So then when Sarah leaves the consultation, she thinks, bloody Pete, Lewis, whoever it is that's doing the consultation, they got me, they understood me, and they can see what my problems are, and they've given me a solution for that. And it goes from buying a workout plan offline from a generic person who doesn't really get to know the ins and outs of you, to giving you something that's personalized and tailored for you. You just kind of
Exactly. And just sticking with the car analogy, talking about selling results and not features. If you're someone who doesn't drive and you go into a car dealership and you're not too sure whether you should get a car or what car you should get, if you do even get one, and the car salesman goes, right, well, this car has got wheels, a steering wheel, car seats, and it's got an engine. But this engine is one of the best ones. And the wheel's one of the best ones. It's got a heated steering wheel. And the wheels are the best for grip. You're thinking, right, okay. But it doesn't sell you on it. It's just, it would be a great feature to have the extra warm steering wheel, but it's not selling you. It's not emotionally connecting with you for you to buy the car.
Yeah.
Whereas if the person said, right, well, what are you struggling with at the minute? Why are you actually here? And you said, well, I'm sick of walking all the way to work. It takes me 45 minutes to walk to work. And that person says, well, this car is going to reduce your walk time to 10 minutes because it's a car which is going to get you from A to B. It's going to reduce your duration. It's going to get you to work. That means you can get up later and you can have some breakfast all without walking out in the pissing down rain. And you're going to get to work feeling like that you have a bit of time to spare. Immediately, you're going to think, oh, that's great. And the reason that works is because you're selling the benefits. You're selling the benefit of reducing the time it's going to get you to work, increasing the time that you can sleep and increasing your mood because you got there quicker. So think about that within your PT consultation, as opposed to selling the features, as Pete just said there, like your training plans, your check-ins and all that stuff, what every other PT does. What can you sell which makes you different and emotionally connects with that person within the consultation for them to actually say, yes, that is exactly what I want. And when I sign up with you, I'll feel like that. And I think that's a big difference. Selling results and not features. And also make sure that when you are in a consultation, this is just a bonus tip, is try not to sell people onto a regime or a training program because of your interests. And you want to make sure that you're filtering out people who may not actually be a good fit for you. And the old saying goes, a square peg in a round hole. If you're trying to sell someone onto your PT who probably, one, isn't the right fit for you, and you know another PT who is going to be a lot better for them, it's always going to be better to refer them. It looks better for you. And it's going to save you training someone who, one, you don't like training and actually won't get any results with you. If someone wants, I don't know, some high-level mobility and flexibility work, but you've never done that in your life and you've never trained a client with those in your life, then it's probably not the best client to take on. And I know at first, when you first become a PT, you just want to take on everyone. And we do say take on most people, but there's a range. If there's someone clearly not the right fit for you and your business, it's probably not best to take it on. So that's a bonus tip. Don't be afraid to say no and turn people away.
I think as well, what you've got to remember, Lewis, is when you're first starting out, and obviously you don't have a lot of clients, that you can feel yourself thinking, well, I'm not in a position to turn anyone away. So even though this person may be not fit for you, you feel like, I'll maybe just change my style or try and change what I do with them to try and make them fit. But what you'll probably find, it doesn't work, does it? And that although it's tough to do it, it's better for the long term, essentially, isn't it? And you won't get
Exactly.
results with someone like that, which
Exactly.
those results that you can then market or sell further down the lines, you won't have. So it's obviously an income, but a waste of you.
Exactly. So, I mean, we've spoken about a few different ways there, the rights and wrongs of a PT consultation. So just to summarize, the first one, make sure you have a structure to your consultation so you know exactly how it's going to go from start to finish. Make sure you're being relatable, asking those open-ended questions so you know exactly what they're struggling with and why they're actually seeing you in the first place. Make sure that you're not being too pushy or too salesy. Don't introduce your PT services until you feel it's necessary. Focus on when you do start to mention your PT, make sure that you're selling the result and not the features. And a bonus one as well, remember, make sure that you aren't trying to sell someone who probably isn't the right fit for you. And make sure you don't talk over them as well. Ask open-ended questions and shut up and listen to them. And that's pretty much everything.
Yeah, I think the main thing, just to add on to that, is you just touched on it there about you ask the question, the open-ended question, and then you just shut yourself down, listen to what they say. Make sure you take those notes of their questions and dig that bit deeper, and then relate that back to them. When you get to the end of the consultation, feed that back to them, because then in their head, they're thinking, right, this person listened to what I've said. They understand where I'm coming from. And I think that will just help sell.
Exactly. So if you want to know more in-depth training, then you can go to our link in the description of our podcast. Is we actually have a free complete training, which we're just actually getting up and running, which I'll be delivering in the next few weeks. So it's going to be a complete 1 hour training where we're going to talk about everything to get you set up on your PT business journey, all around being a gym floor PT. We're going to talk about things about like why maybe it's not the best decision for you and your business to go online, how to package your service, how the best way to create clients. Also, you don't have to handle all the stress and the anxiety of starting out in the industry, especially if you're within the first 3 years of being a gym floor PT. So go to our description, hit the link in the bio, sign up. It's completely.
Yeah. Also, last thing is obviously give us a rating on the
Oh yeah, rate
podcast.
5 stars.
5 stars, of course. Nothing less. And yeah, that just, and share the podcast on your Insta story, Facebook, whatever it is, and just get the word out there.
Thanks very much, guys.
Cheers. Right, shall I just hit stop now?
Yeah, hit stop.